Welcome to the Nate and Dorin podcast. We are professional videographers based in Vancouver, Canada, and we are here to talk about relevant topics within the video and media industry. I'm Nate, and I run Nate Dixon Media.
And I'm Dorin, the videographer, sole entrepreneur offering video production services. And today we're going to share about our favorite video games and how awesome their storytelling is. Storytelling is part of videography, and one inspiration source is video games, actually. So, yeah, we're going to discuss that today. Nate, what is one of your favorite games, and how does it inspire and influence you as a videographer?
Okay, well, it's not one specific game, but the Uncharted games are just the peak of cinematic video game storytelling for me. Like, I still remember the first time I played the first Uncharted and the impression it made on me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like an Indiana Jones movie, but I'm actually playing it. And, there's that extra immersion because the main player's name is Nathan Drake, and I'm a Nate or Nathan. So every time, like,
Hmm.
Elena would call Nate, I'd be like, whoa, she's talking to me. So maybe games in the future will have a customizable main character name where they have every pronunciation of every name possible, and then you can feel extra immersed too, Doran. Because I don't think there are any video games with a main character named Doran, is there?
No, there aren't. Most games would do like something close to the class you picked. Like I know in WoW it would say you paladin, so it wouldn't say your name, but it would be not just you soldier. It would be you and what class you picked. So it's not there yet,
Okay.
but that would be cool. It would be cool if you could like input the phonetics to that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That'll come sometime in the future, I'm sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, the way they like blocked out all the scenes of the cutscenes like a movie. The motion capture, the voice acting is just like top notch, and they tell a story like a movie. I mean, that's pretty much all I can say about that. Is it's a wild action adventure
Hmm.
game that just feels like a movie. So,
Hmm.
Doran, what about a video game that really blew your socks off?
Yeah, I can start talking about that, but I want to ask you a couple of questions because you kind of threw in some terms there, and I just want to pick your brain a little bit to see exactly because there's so much that goes into these. Like I'm in a complete agreement with you. A game, especially an RPG, like a role-playing game, it's all about story. The whole point of the game
Mm,
is, like you said, to get you immersed in the character, and you're investing into that world, and it has to be believable in order for you to enjoy the game.
mm.
I actually like I've heard of Uncharted. Is it? But I've never played it, and I'm not sure if I've seen it. Is it for PC as well?
No, so it's a PlayStation exclusive.
Ah, that's why.
Yeah, and I guess the points I was bringing up were mainly focusing on the first three.
Hmm.
So there's Uncharted 1, 2, 3, 4, and then The Lost Legacy. Um, Uncharted 4 probably has the most emotionally mature story.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I mean, I don't want to spoil the games for anybody who wants to play them, but
Oh, I
it
do.
kind of starts kind of starts off a little more goofy, and then as the games progress, and kind of especially on Uncharted 4, I think it really delves into really emotionally deep themes and issues, and you really feel like you're connected with the character, and you feel like you're actually, it's not a video game, it kind of transcends that to me.
Hmm. I think I might have seen a Let's Play of Uncharted 4. Is it all about like spoilers? uh, like them going to get this treasure in the middle of the ocean?
Yeah, him and
Okay,
his
so I've
brother.
seen that, and see that's how you know the storytelling is good, because I enjoyed it just by watching someone else play it because it's story driven. So I think the number one thing we can identify here is games do a great job of telling stories. And that's the number one inspiration I guess we can take is their storytelling, which throughout the years has developed more and more, and it's more immersive. Um, but we can talk later about like even older games that don't have the good graphics. The story is the main driving factor, and uh, we can discuss some more of those ideas. But you mentioned this game used motion capture. In what way?
Well, like Gollum and Smeagol were captured Andy Serkis's movements
Hmm.
with the characters. So for all the cutscenes there, they would put on those motion capture suits
Hmm.
and then block out the scenes and have all the props to interact with. So instead of just
Wow.
your keyframe animation, they would took it to the next level. And
Hmm.
I think it's pretty much an industry standard for a lot of realistic games now is to
Hmm.
do that.
So only they only did it for the cutscenes, not for like animations during gameplay.
I believe they had to tweak those quite a bit
Hmm.
heavily, depending on the context of where the person is and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
It might have been influenced by that. And I know, like with animated movies, they'll create a suite of all, like, for example, the facial animation.
Hmm.
They'll have the actor make all the different faces and then recreate those all. So they have like a library of expressions to work from
Hmm.
and to tweak the performance if they need to. Because if you just take the raw facial and motion capture, it's going to be a bit janky once you actually put it in the game. It
Hmm.
does still require the artistry of perfecting those facial animations and stuff to really suit the voice acting and the camera position and all that other sort of cinematic stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like I'm gonna like I'm motivated and inspired to watch more of the series because I didn't know there's a series. I just knew of the one game, the last one that came out, but looks like there's three other ones that are good that I can watch. So I'll add that to my watch list. Um, as far as for me, like you said, there's no one game. Like there's so many that do things really well. I think the first game that really impressed me with its storytelling was Far Cry 3. And that's the first one that I played. Um, and I just had never played a game that made me panic and be anxious and be like actually make me feel like I'm in danger and I need to react and I need to do stuff because and it was all because of the storytelling. It was all because of the way the cinematics, not just the cutscenes, but even just like certain scripted events would happen and they would force you into situations where you had to react. So I feel like that is something that as a videographer I can take inspiration from because with a certain angle, following a certain action, I can, and with lighting and all these other techniques to force your viewer to focus on something, you can
Mhm.
drive your narrative. So I think that's one lesson that I've definitely experienced in a game almost as intense, if not more intense, than ever through a movie.
Mm.
Because in a
Hmm.
game, you're also, like you said, you're controlling this, and you feel like you're more invested in what's happening because it's a direct action of, or a direct result of your actions. So that's something that video doesn't quite have. There are maybe interactive videos, um, but in general, that's one limitation of video. That a game can excel above that because it has user interaction. So hopefully, in the near future, videos can become interactive, and oh man, that would be such a cool new world of like having people interact in an advertisement or in a commercial. That would be interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, with virtual reality still going up and becoming more mainstream, I'm sure there'll be plenty of, good mixed with the bad with any new technology.
Yeah,
Like,
till things get polished and smoothen out. And actually, mentioning virtual reality, yeah, that's not too far off because you can combine a VR app and it creates a VR world, and the videos can be the cutscenes within that world. So it is achievable. Maybe it's already out
mhm.
there and I just haven't looked into it. But yeah, Far Cry 3 had a couple of scenes where I was, the plot twists really hit hard, and I was very disappointed, but I love the fact that the game did that to me and my character
Mm.
because of my decisions. And so even if you don't get the user to make a decision, have you ever watched a movie where the character development was so good that you attached yourself to that character, and when something bad or good would happen, you would either be sad or rejoice with them? Have you
Oh
had?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah. I think actually since becoming a dad, I have been able to relate more with, you know, stuff with a son or a daughter or a
Hmm.
father figure. And like before, I would just kind of gloss over it. It didn't really affect me, but now having children of my own, like I get more emotional in movies, man.
Yeah, that's true. I do too.
It's a byproduct of becoming a parent for me, at least.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah.
So
Like
now
I
I'm
have certain movies that because of my emotional investment in the the character, because it was so well portrayed in the video, and it's even though I know it's a movie and it's a fictional character, because I like the story and the way it's told, I'm not rewatching that movie because I don't want to cry again.
mm.
So I am not watching 51st Dates ever again, Nate. Not gonna happen. No, I'm not gonna think about it, and I'm not getting emotional now either, okay? Or the one, I don't know, there's been like a dozen Spider-Man movies. I can't remember which one I watched. But the one where they kill Gwen after they built up that relationship
Whoa, whoa,
so
whoa, whoa.
nicely, I still remember. And I remember I was with my cousins, and when it happened, we all left the theater feeling miserable. We're like, we don't care if he saved the city and the day, he lost the girl, and we're pissed. And I think for a month we just grieved. But that's good storytelling. So that
Yep.
is something that's definitely inspiring from both movies and games.
Mhm,
Um, and yeah, Far Cry 3 was the first game that did that to me.
mhm.
What other games have you had as inspiration?
Well, another one by the same developer, actually, of the Uncharted series is The Last of Us.
Is
Um,
that the one with zombies? Like zombie
yeah,
survival something?
yeah,
Is that
and
another PlayStation exclusive?
it is Dorin.
Okay.
Gotta
Again,
watch a Let's Play of that.
I tried to watch it, but I think I didn't like the Let's Play person, so I stopped watching.
Ah,
So I need to look for a new person.
mm, yeah, and that one, I'll spoil a little bit because it's
Hmm.
just at the very start, the first level. So Joel, our main character, he loses his young daughter, who is maybe like 8 years old. I don't remember exactly, but he loses his daughter, and there's a big pandemic. It's apocalyptic with all these zombies overrunning everything, as you can imagine.
Oh yeah,
Um,
really easy to imagine nowadays.
but he uh, meets a girl named Ellie, and he instantly sees um, parallels between her and his daughter.
Ooh.
So he basically becomes the father figure,
Hmm.
and Ellie is very fiercely independent in order to even survive in that world. She had to be, but the way that game plays with their relationship and the choices they have to make is just like super tense and very brutal at times. And it's like what you mentioned with Far Cry 3. Some situations you're in, you don't know what to do. You're put in such a tight spot, and you're like, oh, you just don't want to have to do anything, but otherwise, you're gonna die, or Ellie's gonna die, and it's just like it's gut wrenching. So that is like
Hmm.
just a game that is brutal, and I have to play The Last of Us 2. I haven't played it, but I can't wait to, because I know the storytelling is just going to be that extra notch above,
Hmm.
and I'm really curious to see what happens with Joel and Ellie in Last of Us Part 2. So Nobody spoil that in the comments, please.
Well,
It's on my
actually,
playlist.
I think the latest installment of that, unless I'm confusing it with a different game, there were a lot of spoilers because there was a lot of reaction from the community, like from the player base, and there were a lot of trending videos on YouTube commenting on certain things that they inserted. So some
I
stuff,
managed to avoid all that,
yeah.
luckily.
So I'm not into
Whenever,
that, but when I saw like all my gaming channels that I follow commented on like, oh, they wrecked it by doing this, and some people being like, ah, you guys are exaggerating, so what? Yeah, it just drives the point that everyone's invested in the story. They're defending the story. They're advocating for how the story should be. Because I just realized now one key difference and why the games have an advantage over just videos like movies is you can only do so much in a 1 hour, 90 minute, 3 hour feature film, whereas the game is like 40 hours of story building, and that's way more to get invested in. That
mm,
doesn't mean video can't do it, because one element that games and movies have in common is they both have trailers. So a 40-hour game can be condensed to its essence in a teaser trailer. And that's interesting because that's taking a game story that is very vast and condensing it in a trailer. So maybe that would be an interesting thing that we could do one day is compare game trailers to movie trailers and see what the difference in how a trailer story is kind of sold to you, you know? I feel like a
mm,
game trailer might display the gameplay uh, as an equally important thing as to the story and graphics. Whereas a movie, it's like, okay, production value and story is the things you're looking at.
mm.
So that's interesting to look into. Um, so you liked the relationship that these two had, and how did the storytelling go in that? Was it given to you in the cutscenes, or was it given through the gameplay and the interaction within the gameplay?
Both. I think they
Oh,
definitely interwove it. So the cutscenes were the main chunks of it, but there was still, um, yeah, parts of the gameplay where it told the story based on how they did things or the mechanics, and yeah. So I'd say both,
mm-hmm.
gameplay and the cutscenes.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, even if it would be on PC, I don't know if I would have played it. I'm not too much into zombie stuff or scary games, except for one. Have you heard of Amnesia: The Dark Descent?
I've heard of it, but I haven't watched any footage of it.
This is one of those games that if you watch it, you have to watch it without someone's commentary on top, unless it's someone that's very immersed. Um, I think that's why I didn't watch The Last of Us Let's Plays because the person was like mostly interacting with their chat and cracking jokes and not taking the game
Mm,
seriously. So I'm like, I'm not immersed and I'm not interested in just seeing the game for whatever.
yeah.
So with Amnesia: The Dark Descent, it's an indie game, super low budget. But what they did is what a skilled and talented videographer can do with a $500 DSLR, which is do an amazing story and just blow your brains with it. What these guys did, well, actually not these guys, it was one person. What this one person did is they created a very dark and spooky atmosphere, and the sound design was the thing that drove it home. The castle
Mm,
sounds, the whispers, and his storytelling. His storytelling was not how most horror games are, with lots of gore and lots of blood and lots of monstrosity and gore and grossness. Instead, of what they opted to do, which was revolutionary at the time, in the sense of like maybe movies did this, but no game had done this yet. Uh, um, they did very minimal visuals and they forced you to imagine the monstrosity that's waiting for you. So the whole objective of the game was you had a sanity meter, and if you would see unsettling events like books randomly like levitating or candles getting blown out or whispers, or you would see a shadow moving towards you, that's it. Your sanity drops, and the sound effects, the ringing in the ears, the character fainting, the your breathing getting heavier and quicker, your heartbeat on top of that. So all of these sound elements combined with the dark scene left your head to connect the dots to, oh man, something bad's coming and I don't want to see it. I've watched horror movies and none of them made me feel what this game made me feel. This game, without showing me anything clear, made me unable to play it. Like I
Mm.
would play for 2 minutes, and as soon as something creepy would happen, the moment I heard the thing breathe at the end of the hallway, yeah, okay, save game, continuing tomorrow. Not doing this. And it took me, I think, a month of chickening out until I got past the tutorial. I'm serious, and
Wow.
I've had cousins and friends like try and play it, and we went for full immersion. Like, okay, at nighttime, lights out, headphones on, you're looking there, and that's it. Um, and so I definitely learned the importance of sound design. This is one of those things that no movie has convinced me how important sound design is as this game did, because this game terrified me by just throwing whispers in my ear. That's it.
Mm.
So if you ever want to try a horror game, I kind of gave you the mechanics away, so you know what to expect now. But if it's still fun to get if you let yourself be immersed, it's goosebump inducing. So
Mm.
Amnesia Dark Descent, very very cool concept of using sound design and uh, leaving minimal visuals and making your brain connect dots. It's kind of
Mm.
what a psychological thriller would do in a movie.
Dorin, actually, that's something that I've noticed that's been missing from a lot of my projects. And that's something that I want to focus on in 2021 is actually improving my sound design because you're right. It can add so much immersion to something, to your video or to a video game when the sound is really paid attention to. Because a lot of people, they'll see the graphics or the framing of a scene and they take that in. But if you watch a movie on mute or without all those extra little gun reloads or footsteps or doors creaking or all that stuff, it just breaks the immersion.
Hmm.
So, and as maybe a lot of people don't know, like for example Planet Earth, almost every single sound effect they add in there is their manufactured sound design. Because when they're
Hmm.
filming these animals from like 50, 100, 200 meters away, they don't have magical microphones that can pick all that up.
Yeah.
So they add in all that stuff and it just immerses you. If it didn't have that, if it was just, oh, there's a shark jumping out of the water,
Hmm.
it'd be like, okay, that's all right. But when it's got the water splashes and
Hmm.
the driplets of water in slow motion all tinkling and all that extra sound design, you're like, whoa, I feel like I'm actually right there.
Hmm. Yeah. The sound helps your brain equate with the force of that. It's like you're there, you know.
Yeah.
I guess I can kind of relate to that if I would think of a project that I did in the past, which was a gym promo, like an athletics club. Um, if I would go back and just add like maybe the sound of dumbbells or people like doing breathing
Mhm.
exercises, I think that would add value to that video. So you're right. That's probably
Mm.
one of my weak points too, is I do minimal sound design. And that doesn't mean the video isn't good without it, but it could add that next level to it, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, definitely in agreement there. Yeah.
Do you have any more video games you want to talk about?
One that I played recently. It came out a couple of years ago, but now I got around to playing it. Thank you, Pandemic, for giving me free time. Kingdom Come Deliverance. This is the most I don't know all the games out there, and maybe there's some console exclusive ones that have more story than what I'm saying here. But from all the ones that I've heard of, seen, and played, Kingdom Come Deliverance has so much in storytelling that I literally could not play it after 130 hours. I think I played. I couldn't continue with the story because I'm like, I feel like it's becoming my second life. That's how much interactive and fun story. Again, they use superb cutscenes and the cinematics and the graphics do help. They're not the main driving factor. Actually, I wanted to ask you, how much do you think graphics and pleasant looking visuals help? I guess this could be said for both games and also movies. Like, would an old movie that isn't polished CGI still have a story to tell and the visuals are aiding it? What do you feel about that?
I think that the visuals are, yeah, they're not the most important things, especially in games. Like you're kind of coming at it as a video game. So if it can look cinematic, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
That your brain will relate that with like movies and stuff that you've seen. But yeah, it can tell a great story, even if it's just reading text bubbles. You know, that's where maybe your brain would compare it more to a book, and
Mm-hmm.
books can tell the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I think for a video game, it can borrow from cinema and borrow from books to tell a good story, and then again during gameplay,
Mm-hmm.
it can really do nuanced things to immerse you into the story more. So I think video games are a pretty unique medium in that respect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting viewpoint. I have to agree with that because if you have a good looking game but very bad voice acting or very poorly written narration and everything's like boring, people are going to lose interest. Whereas some games are old but replayable. Like some people are still playing like early 2000s games for the story. A lot of the Zelda ones, for example, a lot of like the atmosphere. I think atmosphere is the main driving thing for RPGs. Like I know for me personally, but maybe I'm more of a old school type of gamer. But I'll play something new if it has a really good atmosphere behind it. Like Kingdom Come Deliverance is like wow, the atmosphere, because the cutscenes. Here's what they did: the cutscenes, although they were visually a bit more polished, they still ended up using the game rendered animations and people, right?
Mm,
NPCs, if you will. But they just had more creative control over the camera, and I think they boosted the atmospheric elements, so like sun flares and all that kind of stuff.
mm,
But that was a continuity piece that just made everything that I was seeing in game just animate and be, given to me as a story on top of what I was already doing and interacting with people. And the fact that it was also something that was based in history, so it was recreating like Bohemia in the 13th century, and everything was like not sci-fi. So that was something unique that was very relatable that made me get more immersed. So, and the same concept would apply for movies. Maybe a historic recreation is something you're more invested in than a sci-fi thing. Depends what you're interested in, right? Some people might be super more interested in Star Trek or Star Wars than like Gladiator or something. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting how both games and movies have such a distinction in story that basically the theme and the story is its own genre. You know what I mean? Like that's driving home the point of how important story is and how nuanced it can be.
mm.
And
I'll have to think on that because I
yeah,
don't quite
it's
fully understand you.
oh, you don't? Okay. So like the movie genres, it's
Mm,
considered horror or romance based around what? The type of story you're gonna get. So you're not gonna watch a historical film to see aliens or something sci-fi. That's not the story that
mm,
you're gonna be given, right? You're not gonna see
okay.
you're not going to see a drama and expect to laugh a whole bunch. You're not going to be entertained in that sense. You're going to be emotionally invested in drama and in whatever issues.
Mm, right. And if a movie were to borrow from other genres, it would just be dissonant and you would be like, what is going on here? You wouldn't just like
Hmm.
switch from like a romantic comedy to a horror or a thriller. Your brain
Hmm.
would just be like, what is going on? I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. Like movies intentionally, like if something would happen like that, the lighting, the storytelling elements, so the sound and everything, like in a horror or a drama, you wouldn't have if someone does crack a joke or something comical does happen, it would be there for relatability and not a Jerry Seinfeld live audience laugh track would come on, you know? And vice versa, like nothing in a comedy is going to really jump scare you. If a jump scare happens, it's going to be comical, right? Like
Mm,
the person's going to pee their pants or they're going to like uh, whatever, fall over in the bathtub and ruin their dress. You know what I mean? Like
uh,
that's kind of what I meant. Like the way movies are categorized is based around the story because that's the main
mm,
driving element. That was my point.
right. Okay.
So I think I
I get you now.
argumented that better now. ESL Doran for you.
You argumented that great.
Yes, thank you, Nate.
I think it's just argued.
There you go. So
There's
thank
your
you.
English word of the week.
English word of the week, not argumented, argued.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kingdom Come Deliverance is the one that I recently played that just combined everything that I could possibly want in a game from a storytelling perspective. I don't think they did anything wrong. Not with the dialogue, not with the voice acting, not with the way the story is revealed. Yeah, it's just from a storytelling RPG perspective, I can say Kingdom Come Deliverance is the best example of perfect storytelling that I have experienced.
Mm,
So I
wow.
highly recommend watching a let's play of it. If
And you
not,
said you had
playing it.
130 hours in it,
Yeah, actually,
and that's not repeating any story.
I actually did a let's play. So if you want to watch mine, you can do that. But I'm kind of boring because I'm not that well in front of a camera, believe it or not. What were you asking me? Sorry.
I was asking you. You said you played 130 hours, so that's
Yeah.
like not repeating any part of the story,
Oh yeah,
or
nothing's
is
repeating. Everything's linear. Nothing is no repeatable quests or anything because it's besides it being RPG, I kind of think I know what you're getting at. Besides being RPG, it's very medieval simulation. Like literally to the point of the only repetitive things are things that are normal. Like you have to eat, you have to sleep, um, you have to repair your clothes. But quest wise, there's nothing repeating, or scenario
mm,
wise, there's nothing repeating except for like going to the pub and drinking. And one cool feature of the game was the wench house. So you could go there, get your clothes clean, take a bath, and have a happy ending. And that gave you a nice boost to your morale and charisma the next day
mm.
for obvious reasons.
And you said this is the most relatable game you've ever played.
I am married and have two kids, so it is somewhat relatable, yes.
uh,
Yeah. Um, so yeah, Kingdom Come Deliverance, really good. Um,
all right.
Yeah, I can't like I could just keep on going about games that have done that, but nothing's going to top my experience with Kingdom Come Deliverance from a storytelling perspective and a
Mm-hmm.
game immersion perspective. So, what would be the main takeaway, I guess, from all of this?
Well, I'd say it's it's not the graphics and visuals that we're taking away from video games. It's the emotion that they're able to convey,
Okay.
and I guess I think also the sound design is something that
Hmm.
both of us have realized that we need to work on that we can implement in our video projects.
Hmm. I've
Yeah.
actually started this thing up on my channel where I do reaction videos to other videographers' projects. or demo reels or music videos, like anything they've worked on, and that they would want constructive criticism, or if they're experienced and they just want to show off their work, then I can learn and be inspired from it. And that's another thing that I've that's reminded me of this sound design thing, because I've seen a couple of videos where they do is it Foley sound?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
their own sound effects.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it made the video come to life. So, and I realized, yeah, that's something I'm not actively doing and I could be doing. My client isn't specifically asking for it. Could I throw it in there for an extra, extra production value? Yes, I could. So I'm going to look into that for future projects. And I agree. That was a great term you used there, emotion. That's storytelling in a nutshell. Yeah. Whew. I feel like going and making some videos now, Nate. But
Mm,
it's also late at
all
night, so I
right.
think I'm gonna sleep first.
Oh, all right. So I guess we better wrap up here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this was our video for today on storytelling from our favorite video games. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Please leave a comment or give us a message on what game you were most immersed in with its storytelling. Let us know, and let us know future topics that you would want us to cover.
Yeah, and be sure to subscribe to us to not miss an episode of the Nate and Doran podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you use to listen to podcasts. This has been Nate and Doran. Thank you for watching and listening.